I am willing to give Alex Van Pelt and Gerard Mayo and DeMarcus Covington time to figure things out. I expected a learning curve. I did not think they were going to be a polished coaching staff when they took over. But now we're through the first month of the season. So now we start to really look at what's being done. Because eventually here in the next few weeks, they have to get better. The coaches have to get better. Alex Van Pelt has to get better. And so I give him the benefit of the doubt before this whole season began. As the season goes, as I've said from the very beginning, I criticize when criticism is deserved. I give credit when credit is deserved. We don't know anything about this staff. We knew nothing about this staff as they walked in because Van Pelt hadn't been an offensive coordinator since 2009. DeMarcus Covington never called the defensive play at the NFL level. Gerard Mayo had never been a coordinator, let alone a head coach. But now we're a month in. And now we start to look at what is not being done and what is being done. So let's start with Alex Van Pelt because I thought yesterday he stunk. I thought Van Pelt stunk during yesterday's game. And there are a couple of key things that we can point out. Number one, the 4th and 1 play call when you decide to go with a jumbo offensive line to the right side. You put Caden Wallace out there on the right side, and you say to yourself, we're going to overload the right side with big offensive linemen. It's a 4th and short situation. What do? They overload the right side, but they end up running with Stevenson behind their tight ends and a wide receiver. Predictably, the play doesn't work. San Francisco is loaded up. Stevenson gets stopped. That's it. Drive over. And it really makes no sense. And Greg Olsen, he pointed this out during the game. It makes no sense. If you're overloading the right side, you're going big on the right side, run behind the big boys. Play physical football. That is supposed to be the identity of this football team. Play physically. Run the ball to the right behind the offensive lineman. You got an extra lineman out there for a reason. Don't overthink it. And Van Pelt runs to the left and you get nothing out of it. Another thing, and this was inexcusable. Absolutely freaking inexcusable during the game yesterday. And it's inexcusable beyond what we saw, with what was going on with AVP choosing that run play, because it was a consistent mistake by AVP. We talked on Friday, and we said what? You cannot leave. You cannot leave your left tackle going one-on-one against Nick Bosa. That would be an absolute irresponsible coaching decision. And what did we see? Your 4th-string left tackle. Your 4th-string left tackle who's been on the practice squad. Demontre Jacobs, who I don't know how many people even know who he is that don't write about this football team on a daily basis, that don't do podcasts like I do, that don't do radio shows. And I'm sure some radio hosts don't even know who Trey Jacobs is. And that's not a shot at the radio hosts. It's just the fact that this is your 4th-string left tackle. And for some reason that is unknown, Alex Van Pelt walked into that game and thought that you could go one-on-one Jacobs versus Bosa. This is NFL 101 type stuff. You don't have to be an offensive coordinator for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, even 5 years to realize leaving a 4th-string left tackle one-on-one against one of the best pass rushers in football was a mistake. But yet, there it was yesterday, and we're watching this. We're watching this play out, and for some reason, Bosa is out there one-on-one against Jacobs. Here's a next-gen stats post, okay? Bosa led the 49ers pass rush yesterday with 9 pressures in week 4. That nearly matches his pressure total from the first 3 weeks of the season. Through weeks 1, 2, and 3, Nick Bosa had 10 quarterback pressures. Yesterday, Bosa had 9 quarterback pressures. And that is just a terrible, a god-awful, an inexcusable game plan. Taylor Kyles, nearly all of Jacobs' matchups versus Bosa came in the second half. Do you know that Jacobs, he received help on 3 of the 13 pass sets against Bosa? So Bosa in the second half lined up against Jacobs 13 times. Jacobs was helped 3 out of those 13 times. 10 times during the second half yesterday, Van Pelt thought it was the right thing to do to not help his fourth-string left tackle against one of the best pass rushers in football. That is absurd. It's absurd. It's silly. It's outrageous. Unbelievable. Now, Kyle said Jacobs had a few solid reps when left on an island, but Bosa had 2 near takedowns and a game-sealing strip on 3-step dropbacks. How in the world can your offensive coordinator go into that game knowing how bad the offensive line's been, understanding that you are down to your fourth-string left tackle, and think that it's smart to not help that left tackle? I could not even believe my eyes as it was playing out. I was tweeting during the game, and I tweeted, you can't leave Jacobs one-on-one against Bosa because Bosa almost killed Brissett. The very next series, there's Bosa versus Jacobs, one-on-one, strip sack, game set match. This reminds me of going back before the Jets game when I talked about running the football at the Jets. And for some reason, the Patriots did the exact opposite. We talked about it after the Jets game. And even Van Pelt himself came out and said, yeah, we should have started by running the football and then went to our play action. And I asked a question then, and I'll ask the same question now. How in the world do I know what the Patriots should do more than the offensive coordinator does? That's not a good thing. I should not be saying run against this defense, and then you go into the game and you don't run against that defense, and your offensive coordinator comes out and says we should have run against that defense. And I go in last Friday to the podcast saying one of the things that you have to do is not go one-on-one with Bosa. Even if you had Vidarian Lowe out there, who is your starting left tackle, you do not go one-on-one with Bosa. No way, no how do you do that. And yet, out of 13 pass sets, Jacobs one-on-one with Bosa 10 out of those 13 times. These are easy things, folks. I'm not talking about rocket science here. I'm talking about easy game planning. You're playing against the Niners. Tops on your list if you're an offensive coordinator is do not let Nick Bosa beat us.